humans.
Demona.
Who are you to interfere with?
When most people think of gargoyles, they picture Goliath, the towering noble leader of the Manhattan clan, the hero, the protector, the one with the deep voice and unshakable moral code. But what if I told you the most fascinating, most dangerous, and most tragic character in the entire series wasn't the hero at all? For over 1,000 years, one gargoyle has waged a personal war against humanity, plotting, scheming, and surviving through betrayals, curses, and alliances that would put Game of Thrones to shame. She's been a warrior, a lover, a mother, an outlaw, and a villain, and she's outlived them all. Her name is Demona, and her story doesn't just span centuries, it's still unfolding right now, thanks to a brand new Gargoyles comic miniseries from Greg Weisman and Frank Power. Her saga isn't just continuing, it's exploding with new lore we've never seen before. We're talking entire missing chapters of her life finally being revealed, battles in medieval Britain, alliances with Vikings and French sorcerers, an adopted human daughter, and the unrelenting hunt for the Eye of Odin. By the time you finish this video, you might just see Demona in a whole new light, and maybe even start to wonder, was she truly the villain or the ultimate tragic anti-hero? And if you want to relive her original rise and fall, you can check out the Gargoyles DVDs I've linked below in the description. It's the perfect way to binge the series and catch all the moments you forgot. Also, these deep dives take hours to research, write, record, and edit. So if you love this kind of content and want to see more, you can drop a super thanks right here on the video. Every dollar helps keep the channel going, so I can keep bringing you these massive nostalgia breakdowns.
You're healed.
Yes, a bit.
The moment that truly defines Demona isn't the fall of Castle Wyvern, as devastating as that was, it's the curse. After the destruction of her home and the loss of her clan, Demona struck a desperate, dangerous bargain with the last person you'd expect, the sorcerer and warrior who would become her greatest frenemy, Macbeth. The terms were as strange as they were binding. Neither could die unless the other perished. They were, in a sense, locked together for all eternity. On the surface, it seemed like the ultimate pact of power. She would never have to fear age, sickness, or the blade. Her enemies could strike her down 1,000 times, and she would always rise again. But the reality? It became a centuries-long nightmare. Think about it. Immortality isn't freedom. It's a prison you carry inside your own skin. She could never find peace, never grow old gracefully, never truly win, because no matter what, Macbeth was still out there, somewhere, alive, which meant she would be too. Their bond was less like a gift and more like a set of chains, dragging them both through history whether they wanted it or not. And over time, that immortality began to change her, not just physically, but mentally. The Demona who once fought fiercely for her people became harder, colder. Every betrayal, every war, every loss, she carried all of it, with no escape, no end. Imagine living long enough to see the same human mistakes repeated again and again, to watch the descendants of your enemies flourish while your own kind withered. Question for you. If you were forced to live 1,000 years, watching the world change while everyone you love eventually dies, how long would it take before you snapped? And here's the truly chilling part. While Goliath and the rest of the Manhattan clan slept away those centuries in stone, Demona stayed awake, which means the next chapter of her story isn't just about survival, it's about what she did with that time. And trust me, it's darker than you think.
Go ahead. Without me, you'd still be gathering moss.
No, Goliath!
While her former clan slept in stone, frozen in time for 1,000 years, Demona walked the earth alone. There were no clan meetings, no elders to guide her, no friends to temper her anger. She had free reign, complete freedom to choose her path. But without the constraints of allies, there was also no one to stop her, no one to hold her accountable. And with every passing decade, the faint possibility of reconciliation with Goliath and the Manhattan clan slipped further and further away. So what did she do with this endless time? She made a choice that would define the rest of her immortal life. She declared war. Not on a rival gargoyle clan, not on a single enemy who had wronged her, but on an entire species, humanity itself. In her mind, humans had destroyed her home, slaughtered her people, and poisoned the world with greed and violence. She didn't just want revenge, she wanted to make sure humans could never harm another gargoyle again. And if that meant wiping them out completely, so be it. The new Gargoyles, Demona comics from Dynamite, finally let us see these lost centuries in shocking cinematic detail. Free Comic Book Day 0 sets the tone with one chilling line. Vengeance 10 centuries in the making. We watch Demona carving her way through history, forging brutal alliances with Viking raiders, cutting intricate deals with cunning French magicians, and hunting down ancient relics that could shift the balance of power forever. Among them, the legendary Eye of Odin, a mystical artifact with the power to transform its wielder. Every move she made was deliberate. Every alliance was a means to an end. And when those allies stopped being useful, she didn't hesitate to turn on them. To Demona, loyalty was conditional, trust was temporary, and betrayal was simply part of the game. This wasn't reckless chaos. This wasn't mindless destruction. This was cold-blooded strategy, the kind you can only perfect when you have centuries to plan. She studied her enemies, learned their weaknesses, and struck where it hurt most. And yet, here's the contradiction. Buried beneath all the carnage and rare, fleeting moments where we see something unexpected, a spark of compassion, a flicker of doubt, even a willingness to protect a human life under the right circumstances, these tiny cracks in her armor are what make her so endlessly fascinating. Because the next chapter in her story reveals a twist so strange, so at odds with everything she's fought for, that it forces you to question everything you think you know about Demona.
Goliath cannot save you now.
I'm here to save him.
The new Gargoyles Demona miniseries doesn't just sprinkle in a few missing moments. It blows open the centuries-long gap in her history, showing us exactly how she evolved from a bitter survivor into a near-mythic figure of vengeance. It begins in the year 1093, with Demona roaming the wild landscapes of Britain, an immortal outcast haunted by her own choices. She's not the roaring, confident villain we'd meet in the 1990s animated series just yet. Here, she's a creature in transition, constantly on the move, avoiding both humans and other gargoyles, and quietly building the skills and connections she'll later use to wage war on the world. By 1107, her path has taken her to the cold, unforgiving shores of Scandinavia, where she finds herself in the middle of Viking politics, and she plays the game like a master. She forges bonds with leaders and raiders, using their hunger for conquest to further her own goals. These aren't warm alliances, they're calculated arrangements where she trades her power and protection for influence, all while keeping one eye on the bigger picture, the slow dismantling of humanity's hold over the earth. And then, in 1138, something happens that feels almost impossible for the Demona we think we know. She adopts a human girl named Angelica. This is the same Demona who for centuries will preach that humans are irredeemable. Yet, here she is, taking in a child of the very species she despises. The comics don't shy away from the tension of this relationship. You see moments where Demona's care for Angelica seems genuine, protective, even tender, but always shadowed by her underlying hatred for the world Angelica belongs to. It's never clear if Angelica is truly loved for who she is, or if she's a pawn in some deeper, more ruthless plan. The moral ambiguity is what makes this chapter of Demona's life so compelling. By 1195, the tone shifts again. Demona is in France, standing alongside a skilled magician as they hunt for one of the most powerful magical artifacts in the Gargoyles universe, the Eye of Odin. This isn't just a treasure hunt, it's the culmination of decades of strategy, betrayals, and supernatural maneuvering. The quest is high stakes, dangerous, and filled with the kind of moral compromises that have come to define Demona's existence. Through each of these eras, we see the same pattern emerge. Demona can be a protector, an ally, even a mother figure, but only as long as those roles serve her ultimate goal. The moment someone's usefulness ends or their beliefs clash with hers, she's ready to sever the bond without hesitation. It's this constant interplay of loyalty and betrayal, compassion and cruelty that makes her one of the most complex characters in the entire Gargoyles mythos. And it's also the perfect lead into the next chapter of her story, because there are two relationships in her life that defy all her usual rules. Two connections she can't simply abandon or destroy, no matter how hard she tries. If there's one thing that proves Demona isn't just a one-dimensional villain, it's the fact that two relationships in her life have endured for centuries. not because they're healthy or simple, but because they're too deeply rooted to ever truly be severed. Those two connections are with Goliath and Macbeth. With Goliath, the relationship began in the fires of war. They fought side by side in 10th century Scotland, defending Castle Wyvern and the humans who lived there. There was mutual respect, shared battles, and though they never openly admitted it, a bond that went deeper than simple comradeship. For a time, it seemed like they could have been true partners, not just in war, but in life. But the fall of Castle Wyvern changed everything. Demona's decision to abandon the clan and save herself was a wound Goliath never fully forgave. Over the centuries, that wound festered, turning what might have been love into something darker, a volatile mix of bitterness, regret, and unspoken longing. When they meet in the modern era, their interactions are electric. Part battlefield challenge, part lovers' quarrel, part philosophical duel over what their species should be. Goliath sees what Demona could have been if she had let go of her hatred. Demona sees in Goliath a constant reminder of the path she refused to take. Then there's Macbeth, a relationship even stranger, even more tangled. Bound together by a magical pact that made them immortal, they are linked in a way no other beings could understand. Neither can die unless the other does. On paper, it's the ultimate strategic advantage. They're invincible as long as they both live. In practice, it's a curse. Their shared immortality has made them allies, enemies, and reluctant companions in equal measure. Sometimes they fought side by side against mutual threats, a deadly pairing whose skill and cunning make them nearly unstoppable. Other times, they've hunted each other like prey, trying to end their shared curse once and for all. What's fascinating is that they know each other better than anyone else possibly could, not because they want to, but because they've been forced to cross paths again and again, century after century. With Macbeth, there's no love story, but there is a strange kind of intimacy. They've seen each other at their best and their absolute worst. They've shared victories, betrayals, and losses that no one else alive could possibly remember. And while they might wish to destroy one another, there's an odd respect that lingers between them, the kind born not from affection, but from survival. These two relationships, one built on love turned to rivalry, the other on a shared course that feels like both a bond and a chain, are what make Demona impossible to fully condemn or completely forgive. They're the proof that even after 1,000 years, there are parts of her that still feel, still remember, and maybe, deep down, still hope. And that brings us to the real question. Not whether Demona has done terrible things, she has, but whether she's truly beyond redemption. Could 1,000 years of rage ever be undone? Or is she destined to remain forever in the space between hero and villain?
What would you do? Capture him for human justice? He'd be out of jail and back on the streets in a day.
Of course, no deep dive on Demona would be complete without talking about the voice that made her so unforgettable. That fierce, commanding tone that could shift from icy contempt to raw heartbreak in a single line came from none other than Marina Sirtis. Yes, that Marina Sirtis, better known to sci-fi fans as Counselor Deanna Troi from Star Trek Next Generation. Sirtis didn't just read Demona's lines, she inhabited them. Greg Weisman has said that she brought a regal authority to her character, but also the emotional depth to make us feel the centuries of pain and rage bubbling under the surface. In interviews, Sirtis admitted that Demona was one of her favorite roles because she could let loose in ways she never could as the calm and empathetic Troi. Here's a fun bit of trivia. Gargoyles actually became a mini Star Trek reunion behind the mic. Marina Sirtis, Demona, Jonathan Frakes, Xanatos, Brent Spinner, Puck, Michael Dorn, Coldstone, and several others all lent their voices to the series. So when you watch Demona verbally spar with Xanatos, you're basically hearing a next-generation battle with wings and claws. Design-wise, Demona's look evolved from early concept art where she was originally drawn with darker skin and different armor. Her final design, with crimson hair, deep blue skin, and the signature gold accessories, was meant to make her visually distinct from the rest of the clan and emphasize her independence. That shock of red hair wasn't just for style. Animators used it to make her movements instantly recognizable, even in fast-paced battle scenes. And here's one more detail you might not have noticed. Demona almost never blinks when she's speaking to a human. It was a deliberate animation choice to make her seem more intense, predatory, and intimidating. A creature who sees humans as prey, rather than equals. These behind-the-scene touches, from the powerhouse voice performance to her subtle animation quirks, are a big part of why Demona left such a lasting mark on fans, and they make the idea of her redemption or her final downfall even more intriguing. So now that we know the history, the curses, the relationships, and even the voice behind her, we're left with one final question. Is Demona a villain to the core, or has there always been a piece of her still worth saving?
If you are not my ally, then you are my enemy.
So here's the big question. Is Demona truly the villain history paints her as, or is she the most tragic character in the entire Gargoyles universe? Was she always destined to walk the path of vengeance, or was there a moment, a single fragile turning point, where her future could have been different? If the Manhattan clan had reached her sooner, if Goliath had found the right words, the right moment to convince her to let go of her hatred, could she have stood alongside him as an ally instead of across him as an enemy? Could Demona have been a hero in her own right, a defender of both gargoyles and humans? Or was the pain of betrayal carved so deeply in her that she could never truly forgive, no matter how much time passed? That's what makes her story so endlessly fascinating. There's no easy answer. For every terrible act she's committed, there's a glimpse of someone who once fought for something bigger than herself. For every alliance she's betrayed, there's a moment where she's shown loyalty or even compassion. And for every life she's taken, there's the haunting possibility that under different circumstances, she could have saved just as many. I want to hear your thoughts. Drop your theories in the comments. Do you believe Demona is beyond redemption? Or do you think there's still a part of her that could be reached? And if you've read the new Gargoyles Demona comics, tell me your favorite moment from them. I might feature your comment in a future video. If you want to experience her full saga for yourself, from the original animated series to the brand new stories filling in the missing centuries, I've linked both the comics and the original Gargoyles DVDs down below. You'll see every rise, every fall, every decision that shaped her 1,000-year journey. And if you enjoyed this deep dive and want to help me keep making more videos just like this one, you can drop a super thanks right here on the video. Every single one makes a real difference in keeping this channel going and helps me bring you even more behind the scenes lore, forgotten history, and shocking revelations from the cartoons we grew up with. Because in the world of Gargoyles, the night belongs to us. See you next time.